All right. Well, let's get started. So welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special live episode of A.R.E. Inside Connection, where we bring you the behind the scenes of the happenings at the A.R.E. My name is Loretto, and I am the marketing coordinator here. And I am so thrilled to be joined by Corinne Casey and Arlene Diamko, the hosts of our brand new podcast, Creating Calm Parenting with Mind, Body, Spirit. Welcome, ladies. I am so excited that we are finally here.
Yeah, me too, Loretto.
Yes.
Thank you, Loretto.
I know. I'm so excited. Finally, the podcast that we have been working on for a few months now is out, and it's so exciting.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we get started with just, you can tell us a little bit more about yourselves, tell us what you do, maybe a little bit about your background. And Corinne, would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks, Loretto. So I'm Corinne Casey, as Loretto mentioned, and I am an integral leadership coach. I'm also the youth and family programming coordinator here at the A.R.E. as well. And I've been working with the readings for a long time and speaking and writing about them for the A.R.E. as well. And I am a mother of two, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so that's what fills all my days and some of my nights as well. And this, I'm thrilled, just so happy to be doing this with you, Arlene. Yeah.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you, Loretto. I am Dr. Arlene Diamko. I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath here outside Atlanta, Georgia, in Roswell, Georgia. I have 4 kids at home, and I like to look at health from this multidimensional aspect. That's mind, body, spirit. And I talk about this every day and live it. And when Vesela, the editor of Venture Inward, introduced me to Corinne, she was like, you two have to meet because you have so much to talk about that I just really think that you would hit it off. And we did.
That is what happened.
As soon as we started talking.
Yeah. That's right. I had just started the role of A.R.E. Youth and Family Programming Coordinator, and I was trying to figure out what might be projects and programs that people who are interested in the A.R.E. and the Edgar Casey readings might be interested in. And Vesela connected Arlene and I, and we just started talking. And immediately we were sort of still very much in the midst of the pandemic world at that time, lots of openings and closings and disruption all over the place. And immediately we started having these conversations that I wasn't really hearing happening around me in other ways. Certainly I was talking about them with my coaching clients in certain capacities and with some of my close friends, but this idea that Arlene just touched on of how do we really bring the wholeness of our human experience, which is all that we know about science and medicine and the practical realities of what it feels like to be living in the world right now, what's happening in our world politically and with climate change, and this sort of essential truth in the Edgar Casey readings, which is the way that we interact with each other in our family life, how we love each other and care for each other and come together, is one of the richest and most potent places that we can learn about what it means to be human and what our potential is here. And so it felt like this amazing, rich place. And Arlene was just bringing all of this wisdom and practicality to how we integrate all the multi dimensions of what it means to both parent and be in a physical body. And so we were just talking and realized like, hey, let's share this. Like, how can we share this? And that was sort of,
love it.
Yeah, how the podcast came about.
I love that. I was actually going to ask you both how you met, and I didn't know that it was through Vesela. I was wondering, if you had like a previous friendship.
Yeah, it's sort of like it felt like it was just like laid out. It was so natural. And then I just had started writing with Venture Inward with the multidimensional MD column. And then she was like, you have to meet you. I have to introduce you to. And the conversations we were having were just really comforting. Like Corinne said, it was still pandemic time. I mean, we're still kind of in that as well, but but all the things that we were going through, whether as practitioners, as parents, just living through this world and trying to navigate, just like everyone else, our human experience, and being able to connect at a deeper level. So even though we're going through all these challenges, there's this aspect of growth to it, and gives it a lot of meaning and growth on every layer. And so we wanted to be able to flush that out more for people.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Like really provide practical, hands-on, daily tips and tools for how are we living, like as holistic, conscious parents and wellness practitioners. Like, what does that look like in the day-to-day nitty-gritty, like mess of what it feels like to be alive right now and trying to parent the best that we can, that we all can. Yeah.
You know, I'm a mother of two. I have two little ones. And so when I heard about the idea, I just got so excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. You know, it's something that I know I need. It's something that I'm going to be able to relate to. And so when we started taping, you know, recording some of the first episodes as we were trying to get things going, I just love the conversations because everything, I was like, oh, I can relate to that. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that. Oh my God, what am I doing?
Right.
Yeah, I just, it's become so relatable, and you guys have such a good energy and you keep it light, and, you know, it's a conversation between moms and, like you said, our daily lives and what we're going through and how each of us are trying to push through with the tools that we've got. And it's been really nice, at least for me, to get to hear from both of you on some of the things that you do in your family that I'm like, oh, I can start doing that. And
there's so much beauty in the messiness. And sometimes you don't realize it until everyone's asleep. And you look at them and it's so peaceful. But then you reflect on the day, it's like, okay, there's so much beauty in the messiness.
Yes,
totally. And I think such an important element to this for me and Arlene, I think too, is just the idea of not being alone in what we're trying to do, right? Like the voices that I trust the most in terms of like what to try and how to work with things are the voices of people who I know are sort of oriented in the same direction I am in terms of what they're prioritizing and who I know and trust. So starting to create a community of families, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, anyone who's like intimately involved with bringing up these little ones and trying to love each other well, to begin to talk and share about, this is my experience, this is what it's like, this is what's working, this is what's hard. I mean, so much of the intensity of all of the disruption again and again is a feeling of isolation and aloneness of like, am I the only one going crazy right now? You know, just that. So opening the doors to that, to really say like, hey, here we are all together in this, and like, and how do we really find our way with intention and humor and purpose and build our capacity for you know, loving it and not, you know, doing our best in it together.
Yeah, I love that sense of building community and that we can do that really around the world, and creating this podcast space, which is a safe haven for everyone, so that we can touch on these conversations that maybe you're having in your regular lives. But like Corinne said, a lot of times I don't find it being discussed. And we want to go a bit deeper than maybe people might be discussing on an everyday basis. But at the same time, we also want to normalize that conversation, so that does become a part of your everyday.
Right. I think some of the richest places that we're working in across the board, like in any area right now, are the intersection of places. Like so many of the systems and ways of doing things that we've leaned on are falling apart. And we're realizing how interrelated everything is. And parenting is such a wonderful place to be able to have those kinds of conversations where you're not just talking to your doctor or to your coach or to your friend or to, your priest, your trusted spiritual mentor, but we're kind of looking at the intersection of where all of that comes together in our daily life as we navigate the conflict and unknown and uncomfortable things that are coming up all the time, and to create that space that's a intersectional space, that's multidimensional, where it does feel messy, but there's such richness in that. Like, it's like the fertile soil of like, we can't just put our blinders on and like,
Yeah. One thing that I really enjoy is your approach. Corinne, you have the more spiritual approach, and you bring in the richness of the Edgar Casey material and the readings. But then Arlene brings almost like the science behind it, or the medical side of some of the things that you're talking about. So why don't you share with us a couple of the topics that you kind of are focusing on? I know that each episode is kind of geared towards a specific topic. So why don't we share some of the topics that you're going to be kind of covering throughout the podcast?
Yeah, that sounds great. Arlene, do you want to answer that, or shall I?
Well, I wanted to say, but first, when you were talking about like religion and spirit and medicine, a long time ago, it was all one. Like, it wasn't separated. Spirituality and health and food and like everything was all together. And then through the centuries, it started to get separated. So spirit became religion, physical became medicine, and then the mind went to like psychology, psychiatry. But it's not like that. We're human beings. And so when we have these conversations, it's going to come from that human being perspective from all of those different layers. So we're going to take anything from sleep to just how to talk to your kids, to food as medicine, to just navigating like whatever's going on in the world at the time, because we're going to keep it pretty up to date and kind of follow things as the weeks go on.
Yep, absolutely. Some of the first episodes, I know we're talking about grief and grieving and what is that sort of all of us dealing with that through the pandemic years that's still happening. And then, like Arlene said, dreaming and sleep and how that plays in, and working with challenging, strong emotions and conflict as that comes up, and how we want to do that. And
and what do you do when you feel anxious, and your kids do too?
Totally. Practices for working with trauma, balancing the nervous system, coming back into regulation. So sort of the way that we have a, I don't think anyone wants to see the Google Doc that Arlene and I work off of. Yeah, Loretto is privy to it, and it is a monster. It's a beast. We have lots of sort of keeping track of all of the things that are alive in our own families and what's happening in the world, and just creating that list and then moving with what feels most alive in the world for us right now, and then bringing it out and having a conversation around that.
Yeah. So where, what do you envision for the podcast as it's, is going out there, it's, launch, people are trying to, comment and listen. Do you see it evolving in any way, or just kind of like, what's your vision for the podcast, if you've thought about it?
Gosh, I think the seeds of it are in what Arlene and I were saying a little bit about community, starting to create a lot of dialogue and conversation and connection around this area of life. And then I think we're pretty open to how it could evolve. I feel like Arlene is such a dear friend of mine now, and we're both so fully committed to this area in our own lives and work. So certainly like doing these Facebook Lives where we get to have interactions with our audience in real time, and getting to talk with them and share ideas, receiving a lot of feedback for like, here we are tracking what's alive in our lives, like what's happening in your life. We want to hear to help that guide and shape where the podcast goes and what it looks like. So just a lot of listening to that too, so we can be in connection. And then what do you have to add to that?
Yes,
Arlene?
I mean, we would love to create a global community. And so we're going to have resources for everybody. You can contact us through email. You could contact us, in the comments of this Facebook Live.
Mhm.
And we really want to connect with people. And so I think that this podcast is even like a jumping off platform to create even more spaces for community, but using these topics that we're discussing to really connect as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can see this growing in so many different ways, and being able to connect. Maybe one day we'll have something in person too. Who knows?
I
Would be
know.
amazing.
I was actually dreaming of that a little bit,
Yeah.
of like a,
I
yeah,
could see it in my vision. I was like, I don't know when,
yeah,
but
I know,
I feel
I
like
know.
one day it would be so amazing to have a live event
Mhm.
as well.
I
Mhm.
love it. I love
Mhm.
it. So I know, we recently launched, the podcast, but along
Mhm.
with that, we have a new place on our website
Mhm.
that we're calling our Family Hub.
Mhm.
And it is full of resources for families.
Mhm.
And it goes hand in hand with the podcast and some of the topics that we're covering
Mhm.
on each episode.
Mhm.
Corinne, do you want to talk a little bit more about the Family Hub?
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks, Loretto. So the podcast lives on the Family Hub now. So that's one place where you can listen to the most recent episode or download or reach out to us there through the email. And it is found on A.R.E.'s main page now. If you navigate to the programs and events, I believe at the top bar and scroll down, then you can find the Family Resource Hub. And my hope with that is to really, in the What's New section, I think that's going to be the richest section that's directly connected to the podcast in terms of whatever Arlene and I are talking about. I'm going to be providing their guides and a bunch of tools and resources for families to actually apply it in their family too. So one of our first episodes is on working with challenging emotions and disruption. And so there's a bunch of how-to guides in there right now on what the Edgar Casey readings say about how to do that in ways. And I talk about that a little bit in the podcast as well, but sort of break it down to, if you want to work with pre-sleep suggestion, this is how the readings talk about doing it. This is how to do it. And castor oil packs, spinal massage. And then there's also reading lists that you can find there for like bedtime stories and books to have to give your different age children. And there'll be more, I'm going to be adding more and more to it, audio files to listen to and different examples of all the resources that we have available for families. And yeah, so it's there. Please
That's
check it out.
amazing. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh, thanks, Arlene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this pre-sleep suggestions.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
do
know.
a
I
little
feel
bit of
like we
that.
should make a recording for ourselves too.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. I do a little bit of that with my kiddos at
Mhm.
night, but then I'm like, it'll be so nice to
Mhm.
have something that's like a guide I can follow,
Totally. It breaks it down step by step how to do it really simply and how to personalize it really. And the readings are so clear that time when the body is falling asleep in between waking consciousness and going off into the dream place is such a powerful time to connect with your children in terms of bringing forth how you feel about them and how you see them growing and what you see them doing, and sort of really planting those seeds of who you know them to be and how much you love them, and that it has a powerful impact on how they experience their waking life. So there are also some pre-recorded pre-sleep suggestions in that area too. If you don't have the time quite yet to like develop your own with your child, you can just listen to some of them for specific areas with your children, like if they're having nightmares or trouble falling asleep. There's the A.R.E. has made some tapes of pre-sleep that you can just download and play right there. Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to share those with my practice as well. It's so useful.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. I know we have a couple people that are joining us live. If you have any questions for us, feel free to leave them on the comments. We'll wait a little bit in case anybody has any questions about what's coming up. But the podcast, you can find it. I put the link on the comments, but you can find it on all streaming platforms. Basically, it's available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and there's a lot of different podcast platforms out there. So you'll be able to find it in just about all of them. So we are just so excited. About this project for sure.
And thank you so much, Loretto, for making all of that happen, getting it up and out there, and just being with us through the adventure of having this idea come to fruition. It's been just so wonderful. Thank you.
It has been to be able to work with a group and have this vision, this shared vision.
It has definitely been a pleasure. I mean, I think that, I've connected with both of you really nicely. I mean, we've worked really nicely together, and I'm just excited for what's coming and the new episodes that we're going to be launching, and, just see where it goes. It's an exciting new project, and Good. All right. Well, I don't see anything on here.
Yes, if anyone leaves any comments later, just if there's things you want to see in the podcast that want to listen to us talk about, we would be happy to.
Please let us know what you would like to hear.
I am going to add the email address where you can reach us at. If you have any feedback, any questions, comments, or topic ideas, you can reach us at creatingcalm@edgarcasey.org, and you'll find that link on the comments here.
Great.
Yeah,
such a great way to just get some ideas of how to handle things. So whatever you're going through in life, if you want to email us and let us know, then we'll talk about some general things that you could incorporate.
Yeah, or even just specific questions for us unrelated to the podcast. Feel free to
absolutely
reach out, and
how would we approach this, or what do you think about this, or
yeah, great. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today for this, special live episode. Normally I don't do these, but I love it. It's so fun. So I'm excited to maybe do a couple more, and maybe we can come up with some, games or something.
Sounds great.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Loretto.
Yes, thanks so much, Loretto.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.